So, you got any of those max distance forehand discs? So when you say max distance, yeah, I'm looking for something I can just full on like yeet. Ah, yeah, that's gonna be for you. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and this week we're going to talk about how you can start getting max distance with your forehands. But before I go much further, we are not going to spend time talking about some of the basics of forehands because I've already made a video on that. So if you haven't seen my basics video, pause right now. Stop what you're doing. Go watch this link right here. Skip the ads. It's okay. We don't need that extra money this time. I just want to get you that content as soon as possible. And once you've watched that, come back to the chapter titled Let's Get Into It. So you want to throw max distance forehands. Well, there are two ways to go about this. I believe there's one that's a quick fix that's going to help you get distance pretty quickly, but also teach you some pretty horrific form when it comes to throwing a forehand. The other process is going to take more time, but if you take this route, I guarantee you, you're going to have a significantly better forehand than if you just opt for the easy quick fix. But I get it, we're results oriented. The easiest way for you to start getting max distance on your forehands is to grab a crazy overstable disc and start throwing it on as much anhyzer as possible. Remember, anhyzer is the outer edge of the disc being lifted up. You're going to throw that forehand kind of like you're trying to karate chop through a board. An overstable disc naturally wants to hyzer out, and by you getting it on an extreme anhyzer line, this tension will be created, causing it to fight out of this anhyzer and into a hyzer line. As long as your shoulder and hips can tolerate it, you can really start mushing some forehands as fast as possible. A beauty of throwing forehands in general is that it is much easier to inject power and spin into the disc due to less points of contact and involving the wrist in an active roll for the throw. This means you can actually step up to faster discs a lot easier when throwing forehands rather than us mere mortals struggling to have the arm speed or capabilities to throw max distance drivers on a backhand. So like I said, if you're looking for an easy solution to start throwing some max distance forehands, grab those super overstable discs and start throwing them on some anhyzer flexes, and next thing you know, you'll be crushing some forehands pretty far. But if you can't tell by my tone and sarcasm, I couldn't disagree more. I believe this method of learning to throw forehands in general, not just max distance forehands, actually creates the #1 problem people run into when throwing forehands, and that is simply turning the disc over. For any of my bowling fans out there, Caleb and Michael, I know this is for you. Throwing super overstable anhyzer flex forehands is like being a straight line bowler. Sure, it's super easy to try to figure out the form and start getting some great scores. However, the pins are not always going to react as you want them to, and there's also a consistent ceiling that this style of bowling struggles with. You are rarely going to see a professional bowler use any other style other than hook bowling, just like you're rarely going to see disc golf professionals use this massive anhyzer flex as their primary form of throwing distance. But before we dive into my suggested method, I have to tell you that there is a place in the game for an anhyzer flex forehand. There are several holes and fairways that call for this exact type of shot, and I'm not telling you that it's a terrible idea to learn it. I'm just saying that it's a terrible idea to learn it on how to throw forehands in general, and it's definitely a terrible idea to use it as your only way of gaining max distance on your forehand. With all of that said, let's dive into the method I really believe in. The long distance forehand has two critical components in it. The first is that it's incredibly smooth. The second is a mastery of the breaking point angle. These might seem odd, but we'll talk about them a lot as we dive into this method. There are some incredible forehand discs that exist out there, and one of the most popular ones is Firebirds. The Firebird and all of its copycats are amazing when throwing forehands, but for this method, we want to step away from those. I want us to rely on understable discs. Once you have your understable discs, head to a field and let's dive into step 2. The next part of our journey is taking these understable discs and throwing them on some massive sky spike hyzers. I want you to throw them straight up in the air and watch as they fall right back down. What we're trying to teach ourselves is this smooth, almost underhand motion as we're learning to throw the disc. We're focusing on two different things during this step. The first is we want this to feel incredibly smooth as we throw this underhand motion. The second is that we want to see these discs hyzering out. You're almost drawing a line straight up as you throw the disc. With the method we're using right now, you can use every single disc that exists in disc golf and learn how to throw it on a forehand. If you go to the quick fix method, you can only use super overstable discs to actually make that type of throw work. So it might seem odd, but we're teaching ourselves a proper forehand so that we get to utilize all of the amazing discs out there, not just the overstable ones. I want to go and let you know that you've achieved something great during this step, and that is a serviceable forehand. By learning how to throw forehands like this, the next time you're forced to step out from an uncomfortable lie, you're still going to be able to gain distance down the fairway by using this brand new skill you have. At this point, you may also be noticing that if you don't throw the disc super high, that it actually moves forward quite a bit while still following this natural hyzer motion, making it really easy to aim. And that is exactly what takes us to step 3. You've been working on an extreme angle coming underneath the disc. We're gonna start moving up our release point click by click until we eventually reach a flat release. And we're not trying to rush this method either. If you move too fast up the scale, you're gonna lose the smooth, buttery forehand that you've started developing, and that definitely doesn't help us develop a max distance forehand. But eventually during this journey, you're gonna notice that some of your discs don't fly on this natural hyzer anymore as you come closer and closer to the flat release. And this is where we begin to master the breaking point angle. In this video right here, you heard me talk about the easiest way to throw max distance is to throw a hyzer flip. And this is no different on forehands. Just like I wouldn't encourage you on a backhand to focus on ripping over on top of the disc to get the thing to flex out, I don't suggest it either in a forehand. Are you catching my drift? As you begin to throw these understable discs, you're going to notice that there's a point that if you put too much angle on them, then they don't have enough stability to fight back out and go on that hyzer angle that you were originally trying to put it on. And that's okay. A true master of the breaking point angle knows when their disc can go to a certain point. When you have found the breaking point angle of a disc, you're going to go 1 click or 1 degree down, and that right there is the max distance potential for that disc. Because you've spent so much time practicing a smooth release and not using your arm but your wrist to really generate that power, you're able to take a disc, move it that 1 click down, and then watch as it flies into a natural flex line, flipping up to flat, turning just a bit outside of the natural flight path you put it on, and then fading back into that hyzer that you wanted it to do. I do want to take a quick second to acknowledge the fact that during this video, we've used a lot of fairway drivers and distance drivers as examples of how to do this. But if you feel like these types of discs are still too fast for even your forehand form, that's okay. You can do all of these steps using mid-ranges and putters just as well. In fact, I'd almost be willing to argue that if you can forehand an understable putter, then you really can forehand anything. I know it seems like a really drawn out method, but I can promise you that learning how to throw a forehand on this underhand release style is going to make you so much better at the game. Your forehand is going to be able to use all of the discs in the game. You're going to learn a smooth form, not relying on blasting the disc, which makes it way more usable in the woods and on tight wooded lines. And third, you learn a super useful and reliable forehand while on your way to the max distance forehand. So I know this video seems a little rudimentary, and I'm sure some of you who throw some crazy long distance forehands are looking at me like, hey, Robbie, you forgot about this. And I can't wait to talk about those in future videos. But if you have some of those ideas you'd like to share now, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And I hope people can start reading through as a library of resources so that maybe you can pick up some extra tips while you're on your journey to throwing those max distance forehands. All in all, I want to say 2 things. Thank you for stopping by. And second, I hope you have an incredible week throwing some max distance forehands without feeling like you're ripping your shoulder out of socket. Can't wait to see you guys in a future video. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the birdie.